Conservative motion to end the lockdowns and restrictions that the Prime Minister and the federal government have placed on Canadians. Conservatives believe it is time to follow the science and the evidence. Yes. We believe the government must present a plan to quickly end the lockdowns and restrictions. Other countries are doing it, provinces are doing it, and the Liberal government needs to do it. The Prime Minister has used the pandemic to wedge, divide, and stigmatize Canadians. This must stop. As parliamentarians, we must all come together, work together, to transition to a post-COVID society as quickly as possible. Before I go any further, Madam Speaker, I want to speak directly to Canadians who are demonstrating here in Ottawa and across the country. Your protest began with truckers, and you have grown into an international phenomenon. Men and women, children, young and old, from every walk of life and every community of this country have been rallying to have their voices heard. You want your freedom back. To all of you who are taking part in the protests, I believe the time has come for you to take down the barricades, stop the disruptive action, and come together. The economy you want to see reopen is hurting. Farmers, manufacturers, small businesses, and families are suffering. I believe this is not what you want to do. We must all work together. You are protesting because you love your country and you want your freedom back. To the protesters here in Ottawa, you came bringing a message. That message has been heard. Conservatives have heard you, and we will stand up for you and all Canadians who want to get back to normal life. We will not stop until the mandates have ended. Yeah. Today, though, I am asking you to take down the blockades. Protest peacefully and legally, but it's time to remove the barricades and the trucks for the sake of the economy and because it's the right thing to do. Now, to my fellow parliamentarians, here is what I'm asking you to do. That's you, Rob. We all, every one of us in this House, have a role to play in ending this impasse, restoring peace and order, and at the same time, allowing Canadians to get back to their normal life. I have a point of order.
Je pense que nous avons un rappel aux règles.
Point of order. Member for Saint-Hubert-Longueuil. Yes, Madam Speaker. We haven't had any interpretation for about a minute now, so there seems to be a problem.
The honourable member perhaps go back about a minute or so on her speech so that we try again. Please, est-ce que la traduction fonctionne?
Is interpretation working now?
Is the translation working from English to French?
I will speak directly.
Wait, okay, it's working. Yeah, the honourable member. Right, the honourable member has confirmed. Please.
All right, I will go back, Madam Speaker, to speaking directly to the protesters. Thank you very much. I do want to speak directly to Canadians who are demonstrating here in Ottawa and across the country. Your protest began with truckers, and you've grown into an international phenomenon. Men and women, children, young and old, from every walk of life and every community of this country have been rallying to have their voices heard. You want your freedoms back. To all of you who are taking part in the protests, I believe the time has come for you to take down the barricades, stop the disruptive action, and come together. The economy that you want to see reopen is hurting. Farmers, manufacturers, small businesses, and families are suffering. I believe this is not what you want to do. We must all work together. You're protesting because you love your country. You want your freedom back. To the protesters here in Ottawa, you came bringing a message. That message has been heard. Conservatives have heard you. We will stand up for you and all Canadians who want to get back to normal life. And I'll say this again, Madam Speaker, Conservatives will not stop until the mandates have ended. Today, though, I am asking to take down all of the blockades. protest peacefully and legally, but it's time to remove the barricades and the trucks for the sake of the economy, and we believe it is the right thing to do. And so I now want to go to what I want to say to my fellow parliamentarians, because we have something to do. We have something that we can do here in this House. We have a responsibility. Every one of us have a role to play in ending the impasse, restoring peace and order, and at the same time allowing Canadians to get back to their normal lives. We have faith in science and evidence, and we also have faith in our fellow Canadians, faith in them to protect themselves in a way that they feel appropriate, not the way government tells them to do. Dr. Tam, Dr. Henry, Dr. Moore, Dr. Hinshaw, and Dr. Shahab all agree it's time to transition from these restrictions back to normal life. I know they have faith in science, and so should this Prime Minister. Madam Speaker, science is not a prop. It can't be pulled out and then put away only when it serves the Prime Minister's political interests. Canadians have sacrificed so much. We all know that. Every member of Parliament in this House has heard and seen firsthand the sacrifices that all of our constituents have made. It just seems that it's not enough for the Prime Minister. In a country more divided than ever, the Prime Minister has decided to purposefully politicize the pandemic for his own gain. So much so that he's been called out by members of his own caucus, and in their words, for wedging, dividing, and stigmatizing his fellow Canadians. We all know as British Columbia was burning, Afghanistan was falling, and we were in the fourth wave of this pandemic, the Prime Minister called the election a $600 million unnecessary election. Why? Well, to capitalize on the pandemic. Despite what this Prime Minister says, our country, our beautiful Canada, our true north, strong and free, is divided. Canada is suffering. Canada needs some hope. And the blame rests squarely on his shoulders. Conservatives are ready to work with the government to resolve this impasse. I've asked the Prime Minister to meet with me and the leaders of the other parties to come up with a resolution to the impasse. Unfortunately, he has ignored my request. But this problem is not going away. Now is the time for us to act. And so I call upon this House to do what the Prime Minister won't do. I'm asking this House to pass our motion that we're debating and that we will be voting on. Pass this motion that calls on the government to table a plan for the lifting of all federal mandates and restrictions, and to table that plan by February 28th. If they would do it sooner, they would have our full support. The sooner, the better is what we believe. Madam Speaker, this should be a time for hope in our country. This should be a time for healing in our country. This should be a time when Canadians can excitedly look to the future, knowing the pandemic is behind us. They're going to have their freedom. They're going to have life back. And instead, they are feeling stigmatized, divided, and ridiculed by the Prime Minister. To my fellow colleagues, let's act. Let's not just talk. Let's bring that hope. Let's bring that healing. Let's bring inspiration to our fellow Canadians. We can do it by passing this motion. Let's get it done for the Canadians we represent. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm very glad to hear the Leader of the Opposition use words today that encourage the protesters to disengage in their activities and to go home. But I can't help but be reminded of the fact that this Leader of the Opposition not too long ago actually said in an email that she didn't want them to leave and that she wanted this to become the Prime Minister's problem. As a matter of fact, as according to Politico, she's actually told truckers, don't stop, it's working. I'm wondering if, and I do appreciate her change in tone today, but I'm wondering if the Leader of the Opposition can inform this House at what point along the road did she actually make the decision to change her mind and to change course on this?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, this is just typical of obviously the Prime Minister's direction to many in his caucus. They keep stigmatizing, keep dividing, call names. As he walks out, he's calling names. Madam Speaker, we believe our job on this side of the House is to listen to all Canadians, to represent them, to hear them, not call them names, not try to divide them. In addition to that, hold the Prime Minister to account. We are not here to hold Canadians to account. We are here to hold the government to account. And that's what we're doing.
Honorable député de la Prairie.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Madam Speaker, good news this morning from the Leader of the official opposition. She's finally asking demonstrators to leave. I don't know whether she will also ask these MPs from stop taking selfies as a sign of support for these demonstrators. My question is simple. What will she do if the demonstrators don't leave?
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, I'm going to ask that member, I'm going to ask him a question. Will he support this motion so that not only the people who have been rallying across the country, but all Canadians will know, including in Quebec, will know that there is hope to the end of the federal restrictions and mandates. He has a job to do. We have a job to do. And as I just said, our job is not to tell Canadians what to do. Our job is to hold this government to account, provide some hope, some inspiration to the people that we represent. So I respectfully ask that colleague and his caucus, will they support our motion and do the job that Quebecers sent them to do? Stand up for Quebecers, stand up for freedom, not only in Quebec, but across the country.
Honourable Member for